Perfect. So it's going to be again a follow-up and go into detail about coming into Mexico and do business. We will do a series of webinars that will go that will cover also Central and South America. So probably the concepts in general are the same, and in those seminars we will cover specific points that are particular to those markets, especially the ones in Central America and South America, mainly in regulations. Mexico has a benefit that we have 200 years of international trade, so it's well advanced, and it started in 95, 96 with the NAFTA, now the USMCA trade agreement. So our business relationship as countries is good. But anyway, I will follow up from the last time we talked, and I know that there are a couple that were here in the seminar last time. And first is, where are we? I mentioned last month that we were ready to have a general elections, and we had them. The official party, the ruling party, which is called Morena, won election. It was a landslide. Even them were surprised of the results. So the country, or the party, is in ideology is more a left side party. In reality, they're left leaning towards center. They do a lot of programs, popular programs and assistance to low-income consumers and the elderly. That's pretty much what gave them the voters' base last election. They're not particularly pro-business, but we have not seen a big issue there on doing business. Unfortunately, we have not seen advances, but we have not seen anything coming back to that. Their flag, or their speech, is that they want to eliminate corruption and have austerity in the government. Uh, it has not been really seen, but let's see how it happens. But anyway, in macroeconomic terms, we had a slight increase in the exchange rate coming from 1650 to 1820 this morning. It's a big spike, 10%. And that obviously makes the markets nervous. And the main point is that they, by this election, having the party ruling over presidency and both houses, they think, that any challenge, any new rules or new laws will be passed without any counterweight from the opposition, but nothing really to be affected. They expect to modify the judicial system, and basically they want to have the Supreme Court judges elected every 3 years, which is kind of weird, but anyway, that's what they're looking for. And they want to do some changes in the energy law that will not really affect the overall market, and increase protection towards women and elderly women. So that's pretty much what they're talking right now. But again, we don't see many changes by the election, business as usual. And again, we expect the exchange rate to stabilize in a couple of weeks because we've seen a trend towards that. Now, it's positive because again, there was a lot of uncertainty, especially in the market. The buyers and consumers actually stopped the consumption a month before because of that. More hedging products and trying to protect. But now things are getting back to normal. And again, it was a peaceful election in what it can be counted. Unfortunately, there were a couple of incidents. But again, the country didn't change. There was not anything particular out of that. Now, what are the things that remain the same? Well, basically, economics and exchange rate. We talked about it in the last seminar, that exchange rate is still very high. We have 11% in our federal rate, whereas the Fed is, I believe, in 6, and we expect that to lower towards the end of the year. So the money will continue flowing into Mexico, or will remain here, which will obviously benefit the market. And there is cash, there is there's investment. So again, the market is well. Now, where we have challenges or opportunity areas, basically, the social differences in populations and regions remain the same. These programs that I talked about, they will probably reduce competitivity in the long term. Basically, you have young people just getting $200 just because. So we see that as an impact in the long term. And again, the infrastructure investments are irregular. We don't see anything yet from the new administration. We expect that there could be more research into that because the new president, Claudia Sheinbaum, which is actually our first female president, will be. She comes from the research, world. She's a renowned environmentalist researcher. We haven't seen anything in her speech, but we think that there may be some advances in that, and smart agriculture, vertical agriculture, climate change. So we're still waiting to see what happens. But anyway, uh, going back to the market and the population, again, nothing. We don't see anything to change. The differentiation between the social classes will remain, and the trade policies. We don't expect anything to happen. I believe that the Mexican market and the Mexican government is waiting to see what happens in November in the U.S. So two countries, two elections, months apart. The new president is expected to take office in October the 1st. So it's really soon. Now, that's enough of politics. Let's talk about the retail. And last time we talked about the market in general. So I'll go deeper into how to make business in Mexico and how can you be better prepared to access this market. The point here is to give you ideas or give you information or what you need to research. So eventually you can join us in one of the inbound trade missions or the outbound trade missions. Basically, the inbounds is that we take groups of buyers going to the States. We have one planned to California and I believe it's Nevada for added value products. And then we're doing a big trade mission coming down to Mexico in December, coming to Mexico City and Monterrey, where we create a marketplace. We make appointments with buyers. We fly regional buyers from Mexico, but we also bring Central American buyers. So the idea of this series of webinars is that you are more prepared and you have at least 6 months, so you can better research, this market and probably commit to it and come to these missions. So I'll start talking more about retail. I know that we have some produce companies and some that do food service. This can be applied to all those categories, but I'll focus on retail and maybe if you have questions, we can clarify on those. But here in Mexico, and basically you have different formats, but they're owned by the same company. It's different to what you have in the US, where a Walmart is a Walmart and they have national distribution. But here Walmart will have different formats, and Walmart will own Sam's Club, which pretty much they do the same in the US. But here they are the same entity or the same company. They are related. They have different formats, especially for the middle class and the lower end classes, like warehouses, supermarkets, even convenience stores. And again, you'll have the national retailers like a Walmart, Soriana, or Comercial Mexicana, but also you have regional chains that are taking the ideas or the concepts proved by the national chains and are starting to implement that. Actually, we see a lot of changes in the buyer's base, and the Walmart buyer now will be on a regional store tomorrow, and so on, so on. So it's very interesting to see how they keep moving from one place to the other. But just to illustrate the point, you'll see that Walmart in Mexico, that by the way represents 35% of the market, they will have Sam's Club, the Walmart that another format called warehouse or bodega. That is not a bodega that you see in the US. This is more a smaller retail store with high volume brands. You have Walmart Express, which before was Superama, the ones that were in Mexico 4 or 5 years ago. They decided to move out of the premium format of the supermarket, and now they did Walmart Express, and they have the same offering that Walmart, so they just moved out of the premium segment. And then you have convenience stores, which are obviously they increase distribution base. In this case, the retailers in general are growing in the supermarket format and also in the convenience store format. And supermarket will be, and I have one here. Oh, here. And supermarket will be on a specialization on stores and products. Probably they will have a gourmet experience. It's called premium retail. And the ones who have been or have been to one of our missions have gone to the to City Market, which is Whole Foods on steroids. They have everything, and you can find a $5,000 bottle of wine and $1,000 cheese. And I'm not kidding. You can actually buy them, but they have regular products. So it's more on the consumer. It's the consumer, the gourmet experience, and also the exclusivity of their products and their client base. And they are based on value, not on volume, but on value. So you'll see those again on City Market, but they go mostly for the higher end part of the population. And at some point, that's where we want to be, especially because U.S. products and Western U.S. products are mainly in this part of gourmet and higher end or value proposition to consumers. It's a smaller base, but they have the money to pay for it, and they are sensitive to what you offer and not being price the only driver for their purchase decision. On the other side, you have the convenience stores, and again, this is tricky. It's a like a mirage. We've had U.S. companies saying, "Oh, I want to sell to OXXO. They have 40,000 stores." Well, it's very hard. The margins are very low. They are strict, and they have commercial terms that are very aggressive for the exporters and the salespeople. So yeah, they have the distribution, they have the convenience, they have high volume, but not really differentiated products. And I remember a couple of energy drink companies that came and tried to access this market, and they were not able to access because we have, or there is a local offering that will work under their conditions, and they will be able to manage those commercial terms that are so aggressive. And finally, well, basically they're based on proximity and higher price for a low value product. So it's more money out of pocket, and it's hard to manage a product that is imported. If I can ask you to close your microphones, I can see some background noise that will help me a lot because I get easily distracted. Thank you. Now, again, talking about retail. Well, retail in Mexico again is what I would say 90% of our added value products or shelf stable products go, and basically a retail in Mexico is a financial business or a financial model. Just to give you an example, Walmart was founded in the 60s in the US, but it came as Walmart in 1995 to Mexico. So they had 30 years to figure out what would be a profit cost, how to take more money out of the suppliers, and how to cash quickly to the consumers. So in Mexico, there are different changes or different charges that they do. And again, it's more a financial business. They are more interested in the margin than at some point in what they offer. And we see that especially with the high volume retailers such as Walmart or even Soriana. They are able to import directly, but only in a specific and differentiated products. And one of the tricks or that some U.S. exporters have fallen into is that they want to go direct to the retailer. Well, that works in the US because you're in the same country. But here in Mexico, you need a third party, you need an importer that will provide customer service, and especially they will carry the inventory on their behalf, and they will carry the financial charge of that inventory. And also they will take care of all the imports process and all the risk associated to that, assuming that the product will work. And if the product doesn't work, then the retailer they don't have skin in the game, so they can transfer that to an importer. So that's a big point that we need to take into account, and that's why some of our missions or most of our missions work mostly with importers and distributors. We may have some retailers in our meetings, but it's hard because at some point we are giving away the cost of your product, and they if they don't buy direct, they have more information against the importer and against you on the margin side. So basically, it's recommended that you work with an importer, a sales rep, or a distributor, so they can manage. They can pretty much be a buffer with the retailer. And again, it's good to have one importer. But there are industries, and I see some good friends here that work with food service industry, and they cannot have one distributor for the whole country, especially again in food service. And you need to have one in Cancun, one in Vallarta, one in Monterrey, because it's difficult for them to cover the whole country because that channel also developed differently than retail. Now, how we expect things to move in Latin America? There is always the idea of having integration between Mexico and Central America. We don't see that yet. We saw that with Walmart, some years ago. I would say in 2018, 2019, you could talk to the same buyer and he would cover more than one country. Now we see that during pandemic and post-pandemic, they are separate entities. So you'll have to deal with a buyer in Mexico, let's say Walmart Mexico, and one in Walmart Central America. So we hear that, most of the times, if I talk to one, if I sell to the Walmart US, will that help? Well, yes, on the conversation, but not really in paper. And if you buy to Walmart Mexico, same thing with the buyer in Central America. So you have to approach them one by one. Same thing with HEB in the US. I mean, they have the same database, and I think I mentioned that in our last seminar. It can help, but the commercial terms are different, and at some point the delivery points are different. There are some categories where they source to all their markets, but that's on per event or per product basis. Nothing that we can mention that is general. Now there is a high focus on BTL, which are basically demos, especially with coming out of pandemic. But one thing that will complement these demos and is far more efficient is having retail marketing, and that is using their portals. Uh, they found that it's a profit center for them to manage communication in their stores. So they're restricting POS, but they have more TV screens and they charge you for using them. Or they have their website or they have their shopping app and you can make a retail marketing campaign. Also, we have delivery apps. Rap is working well. Actually, we're doing some campaigns with them and it's working. You get more contacts and you have more interaction with the consumers. But again, it's a balance between below the line or in-person activities with e-commerce and digital activities. That is, a result of the pandemic. We see also a development of frozen and gourmet categories. Now we see ready to, I wouldn't say it's ready to eat, but it's more ready to cook or ready to finish. So, we saw barbecue ribs that you obviously unfreeze or you put on the oven. They're pre-cooked. But also we see that it's a trend that people actually, finish the product and add something to make it make it a personal dish. So again, it's not only the ready to eat, it's also, how you help on the preparation so the consumer will help you on that. Long gone are the days where, this was a house, a housewife market. Everybody has a quick pace, and preparations shortened, and also, the product or the food made from scratch. So you see a lot of gourmet and frozen categories. And basically, we see that the importers and retailers are looking to work on these long-term relationships. So they don't want to do one purchase from, God knows what importer. They have their preferred importers, and they also commission these importers to look for new products. So the retailers will not look for the products; they will ask the importers to go for them and go back to them with a value proposal for retail. Now, we saw this on the last seminar. We saw this model, and I'll cover some points specifically on the first 3 points on how to get information and how to make, business in Mexico. Now, I said last time that Mexico takes time, from 6 months to a year, but you have to be prepared. Uh, Usually, your counterpart in Mexico will be more knowledgeable of the U.S., most likely will speak the language, and on the other side will have more, again, interface or interaction with the culture. In the US, we've seen that at some point these trade missions are the first contact that they have. Give me a second, please. Just give me 30 seconds. I have a uh, group just passing by in front of me and they're very noisy. Okay, sorry about that. Now, and basically, what we want is to understand that business culture and level the field. Otherwise, they will, they will know more, and we don't want that for you in the first conversation. So we want you to have first patience and commitment to this market. Again, our cultures are different, even though we are very similar in concept. There are things that are strictly different, and also you need to understand this business culture so you don't grow impatient, or you build that patience so you can continue and prevail in the market in the long term. So basically, I'll talk on the blue side, and we'll cover the rest. But basically, we'll talk about how to do it. Oh, one thing that I missed, going back a bit, this is a map of Mexico, and these are the retailers that we have in the country. So as you see, we have seven major retail chains, and you have Calimax in the north. They are recommendable. They're good for being the first contact, especially for Western U.S. states. The thing with Calimax is that they have been restructuring for years now, and they are, they're still struggling on that. So their commercial team are usually they're changing every 3 to 6 months. So even though they're good and they have a good market, they still need to work on their structure and on that relationship with buyers. You have Soriana, same thing. Well, actually, they're the second largest market in numbers of stores, but they still haven't got their grip. They acquired Comercial Mexicana, which is down south, and they're still struggling on that identity and on their commercial terms. They're still a good retail marketing, but they're not innovating because they're still working on their structure. Casalay, they're on their own. They're growing. They have some premium retail marketing stores. They're based in Sinaloa. It's a good a good chain to work with. And at some points, they are the only chain because they have been there. I think they just turned 100 years old since their founders started their first store. So it's a good one. HEB, which is the U.S. Chain from Texas, they have a Mexican branch with 40 something stores. Again, they're independent, but they have somehow related, especially with private label. Walmart, I mentioned 35% of overall market. Comercial Mexicana, and they have the premium segment called City Market with 17 stores. It's a priority to us as Gusara representatives to get closer to them and have more contact with the buyers and their importers because that's where the product mostly comes in. And then you have Chedraui, which is based in the southeast, but basically they have national coverage. So I'll go back to what I was saying. Now, first, and this is a key point of the presentation, is study the market and define your strategy, and basically obtain reference information from USARA, or pretty much information resources from USARA. Similar to these webinars, there is a lot of information on the USARA website, usara.org. Look up for gain market reports issued by USDA. If you look up GAIN, GAIN, which is Global Access Information Network from USDA, you can type GAIN, let's say tomato paste, GAIN added value, GAIN organics, Mexico, and you will find them there. Actually, they just released a very good report on organics last week. So if there's anybody in that category, you can look it up. You can also talk to the Agricultural Trade Office. You can contact us. We are in market for USARA. But again, get that general information. We can help in general. We can help you in general to get information about the market, understand the market size. At some point, we can give you information, or we can access to information from Euromonitor. Euromonitor is a market research company, and they're good on the overall picture, but on the detail, they're very hard to read. But they can give you, a quick understanding. But I wouldn't take it as a sole reference because again, they do it in a broad approach. So there are things that may not be specific to your products, but it's good to have a reference. Again, on Euromonitor. Uh, Please consider having these relationships and adapt to this market. Just coming to webinars or just getting the information will not have the buyer picking up the call if you call them. So as just as they want to know you somehow in person. Zoom is acceptable, but please take into account again that we've been doing business for 200 years as country. So somebody may have taken the time to come and present a product that may not be the same, but could be similar over time. So again, relationships are important. They are not what they were, that what you've heard, that we drink to close business, or that we take siestas. I mean, nobody takes siestas anymore. Haven't done it for 50 years, I think. But again, you need to understand how's the business culture. Actually, retail buyers are very aggressive on their approach. As they don't have time, so they will go and just ask for the information. One thing to consider, and that's true, is that Mexicans will not say no directly. So you be very careful, and it's not because they're dishonest; it's because they want to help, and that's one of our biggest, I would say, qualities, but that's one of their biggest problems, because they will not say no to you directly, and sometimes you will get into the point where you're sending emails and they're not answering because they will not tell you, "I don't have time," but they don't have time. But if you have patience, they'll come back to you and "Oh, I'm sorry, I was busy, or I was lost in work, whatever." But usually they just don't say no just because. They are interested on personal meetings, again, but once you meet them, you can generate that interaction, that remote interaction, and it's very common now. Actually, I just come from giving a seminar. It was a Zoom seminar with buyers, and the buyers were like 5 blocks from me, but they were busy with a grape season coming in. So again, there are ways to adapt, and the Mexican is very keen to adapt to situations. We require a lot of follow up, but they do not like to feel pushed. But on the other side, be careful to not be, how would I say it, apologetical, or just saying sorry for everything, which happens at some point. I don't mean to be rude. I don't. I know that you're very busy. That can be read as passive aggressive. So at some point, just be direct, be polite, but have patience in your communications with Mexican buyers. And I'll be curious to see. I see that we have some Latin exporters, and we may have Mexicans there. I would like to hear your thoughts once we finish. And again, a long-term relationship is established, a personal relationship is established, then a long business relationship will follow. But we need to be careful to keep it formal. Now we're facing that most of our long-term clients, by contacting them by WhatsApp, we're losing formality and they're canceling meetings, or they're just, "Oh, I'm really sorry." So you need to find that sweet spot, and it's similar to when you learned how to drive the standard. And I don't know if it happens in the US, but my mom would say, the car will tell you, the market will tell you. But again, you need to have exposure to this market to understand these dynamics. uh, I'll go real quick on this. Once you have interest in the market, you need to define the product line, the geographic region, target clients to reach, and have a plan. Again, you're not going to sell just whatever you want here, or let's see what sticks. You need to have a strategy into this, because the buyers will understand and will see that. Again, it's not that you have all the offerings, and we see that with trading companies. They sell everything, but we recommend that you have a strategy and you define what product line you want to sell first. And obviously, you will have other options, but you need to have a plan. Decide the commercial model that fits your products. And in the last seminar, somebody asked, how can you protect from lack of payment? Well, have a commercial model, and I'll talk about it. Sometimes uh, we recommend, basically, not sometimes, all the time, we recommend, ask payment in advance. And if that is your commercial model and it's clear by the importer, they will not ask for credit. But that's something that you need to set up front, and obviously, again, adapt, but have a clear model. Look for references and support from Busara. We cannot endorse any company, so we ask you to do your due diligence, especially on first-time sales, and be careful in longer-term relationship, because as I mentioned before, a business relationship will follow, but you need to be careful not to get on that point where it's too close to comfort. Um, and basically, there are two ways to manage product. One is to work with an importer or distributor. They will manage the product, they will purchase it from you. They will ask for exclusivity. We recommend that if you commit exclusivity, that probably want to leave it out of the conversation, but do it for 6 months and see how it works. And if they continue growing, then you continue the relationship. But what they argue is that they are risking their time, their money, their business for a company, and they want it to be rewarded and not have somebody else offering the same product. So the logic behind it, it makes sense, but just make sure that you have it clear in your business model. And they are the ones that may sell to other distributors or regions. And I see my good friend Bauman here, and he has a lot of experience here with companies having different distributors and having sales reps, which is the other model, have a sales agent, which is a representative that will provide customer relationship and customer service. They're useful if you have a large volume or large product portfolio, and basically they know the trade, they have the relationship with trade. You have to be very careful because they have a low fixed cost that could be a retainer and a sales commission, but that it's a two-way, how do you say it, a two-way blade or a two-edged blade, something like that. But it can help you, but on the other side they can probably not be as aggressive because they have the retainer, and they can just survive on the retainer. So you have to be very careful on them, and also you have to be careful that they don't have many brands, or they have the competition. We had one company that sold American potatoes and also sold Canadian potatoes. So he had everything. And okay, what is best? Who will he be committed to? So just be careful on that. But there are two different models that you can sell to. Again, just do that. Now, there are different marketing tools that we'll cover in the next seminar. And now, basically, this will be the initial slide, and they will talk and give you examples on how to implement discounts, sampling, product demonstrations, trade shows, and merchandising. We're missing, as I said, retail marketing and digital activities here. But this is basically what you can have as a digital tool. That's something that you can offer and have. It is recommended that you have some information in Spanish, but you're not required to change your label to Spanish yet. We recommend that you do that once you have a good client base and a good volume. But you can have brochures, you can have a portion of your website in Spanish, just a landing page, have again quick information. It helps, but it's not necessary. And they know that you're American, and in some cases you're bilingual or you have a Mexican salesperson. That helps a lot. But also be careful, especially and I'll be very careful with Mexican Americans because the market has changed. So in Mexico is different to Mexico in the US. So just be careful and be very mindful of the differences that you may have. We thank you, and we are proud, as Mexicans in general. But there are differences between living here every day and just coming here, every other month or differently. So just be careful on the language and on the culture, on the cultural differences of a Mexican in the U.S. or Mexican from the U.S. and a Mexican from Mexico. I hope I was clear on that. Now, again, define your cost strategy. We recommend you to do the landed cost analysis. We talked about it last time. And there are some added costs to your product. And basically, is how much will your product cost in Mexico? But who do you have to share the profit with or the cost with? Either that being a sales representative, an importer, or a distribution company, and also consider the retailer margin. We have a wine company now here in a different trade mission, and they were surprised to know that their product is sold 4 times their warehouse price in California. So they're selling their wine for, let's say, $15 in the US, and here their product is about $50. Why? Because you have to pay a lot of taxes, a lot of freight, and the margins of the importer, the retail store, and all the people in between. So again, be very mindful of that cost. I remember years ago that we had a trade mission, and there was a pair exporter from Oregon and a Mexican importer. So they have the one-on-one meetings. The buyer comes and he says, I had the best deal of my life. I bought the cheapest pairs I could ever buy. Fine. Then comes the salesperson saying, I made the best deal of my life. I sold pairs and he didn't negotiate a dime. So there was something off. They both left out the distribution cost or the shipping to Mexico. They came back and they negotiated it, but it was too good to be true. So if it's too good to be true, it's not. Just be careful about that, especially when you talk to importers that offer you, everything. There's something off, or you may have a different experience when it comes to reality. So I'll go real quick. Um, Basically, we were talking about how to approach this market, and basically, we are status conscious as Mexicans. They want to make sure that they're speaking to the owner, the purchasing manager, or the one taking the decision. So be sure to state that from the beginning, so you can set the conversation. Otherwise, they will wait. Oh, then when you talk to somebody else, have them call me. Send information of your company. If you contact them by phone, send them an email. They may not open it because they don't know you. But if you come on a trade mission and they know you, well, at least they have a reference. But please send an introduction email in English before calling, and then you can call. It's recommended that you call the buyers right after lunch, which is 2 p.m., 2 in the afternoon, Mexico's time, which is 1 in California, I think. Don't do it in the morning because they will be super busy, or you can do it late in the afternoon. So again, be careful with that because buyers usually don't take calls in the morning. If you're coming to Mexico, make the appointment in advance and make sure that you confirm. And there's a term in Mexico that we say reconfirm and reconfirm because they may forget. And just to give you an example, we had a meeting with a buyer, a retail buyer this morning, and he canceled the meeting 20 minutes after the meeting was supposed to start. So it happens. We recommend that you come to the trade missions, both inbound and outbound. Inbounds are buyers going to you. It's more exploratory, and you can ask them any question that you need before coming to the country. An outbound mission is where you come to Mexico and do a 4 or 5 visit to the country with trade visits, with retail visits, and also with meetings with both importers and retailers. This is where you get the information, and this is where basically the interaction starts. So we recommend that you use them and you start with them. Um, just some tips as we talked about it. Please have patience, especially if you're calling again and again. Again, WhatsApp is used, but we recommend against it because they may block you. So just go old school and try to have that interaction. I know digital is the rule right now, but QR codes, digital e-cards, they're not that useful, especially when talking to importers or retailers. And I've seen that. I have my QR code and I've used it twice. I went back to have my presentation cards. They have the QR code, but it's a sensorial process. Actually, you remember the person, you remember who you gave the card to, opposed to just exchanging phones. And I have phones of 20 importers, and I don't remember who they are. So yeah, just go back again to that formal part. That will be very helpful. And on meetings, again, just give a context of who you are. If you are Mexican or you've been to Mexico, just talk about your experience here. Don't apologize if you've only come to Cancun or any resort area. That's something that is not really well received. It's okay, you came, you good, but don't apologize because you just did that. Just continue with the conversation. Just go clear about your main point on the meeting, but try to flow with the buyer. Be empathetic with the buyer. Just go with the flow, and if he's going quickly and he's busy, just try to close quick and have the next steps. Or if he's confident and he is open, then just go with it and just continue with that. Again, we've seen go-getters. We've seen very strong-willed U.S. exporters that just miss the mark because they're not looking to the other side of the table. So we ask you to do that. And if it's by email, again, just be patient and again, be reasonable on the follow-up. And if nothing happens, you can call us and we can see what happens. We have a company, and I mentioned that last seminar. It took them about 6 months from the buyer to respond. And the buyer just responded with a purchase order, no other text. So again, it can happen, but it takes time. And once you get the deal, you have to take care of documentation. This is very standard. If you're exporter, you have done it. The exporter is in charge of the commercial invoice, certificate of analysis, free sale certificate, and phytosanitary. If it's produce, if it's animal, or if it's processed foods, you may need as what is it as sanitary certificate in general. So just be careful, ask USDA or ask USARA or us what would be their regulations. You can ask also the US Embassy in Mexico. We have contact with them and they can ask, they can help with the specific regulations. And also the importer is in charge of the product once it crosses the border. They need to be registered into the Mexican National Registry, but the moment it crosses the border is their responsibility towards the Mexican authority. So be careful that the Incoterms are consistent with that. We recommend that you mostly have that mostly you deliver in the border and they take care of it. We are seeing that there are some products, added value products like wine, beverages, beer, high value product that are starting to go to the delivery DDP, which is delivery at full point. Basically, it's at the client's warehouses in Mexico. Just look if there is a freight agent, a customs agent that will take care of that. We see that it's becoming the norm, that they are offering added value services and they are just helping you with that from one point to the other. But be very careful when shipping samples. DHL is not one of those companies, or FedEx. If you send or ship through FedEx or DHL, your product will get stuck in the border and it will be impossible to retrieve unless your importer already covered all the imports process and gets all the permits in place to get that product into the market. I'll go quicker because we have 5-10 minutes. Where are you shipping? If it's produce to Nogales, if it's regional to the northwest to Tijuana, if it's a general product, added value or food would be Nuevo Laredo or shipped to the airport in Mexico City. Food service could be shipped to Cancun in the southwestern corner of it. Southeastern, sorry, but you check on the delivery points, and basically it takes 10 hours or 16 hours from Nogales to Mexico City and 10 hours from Nuevo Laredo to Mexico City. So it's a very short transit time. Basically, Mexico is 5 times the size of California, so you can take the reference of the time. The road system, basically, most of your products will come by truck. So you can see the green one on the produce side coming from Nogales to central Mexico, and the added value taking the mostly the yellow, the pink line coming down to Mexico City, where is the biggest market. You can have some in Monterrey, you can have some others, but basically is that the different road systems. We also have railway. It's used only for high volume products. We saw a couple of companies making experiments with that, but it didn't go well, especially because the docking and undocking and the frequencies from the of the railways and the different companies that work with them. Kansas City is the main player in Mexico, but also you have a Mexican company called Ferromex, but that's pretty much what happens. Finally, the main hurdles, and again, some of you may have seen this slide, and I want to repeat it over and over because the main problem is credit. We don't have credit references. Companies are, the cycle is coming back on. After pandemic, we're seeing new companies starting business. The relationship between exporters and importers is limited because of geography, cultural barriers. They're being overcome, but again, we need you to come to these events, and also lack of understanding on the counterpart that could be a Mexican not asking because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So just make sure again to read your counterpart, just to ask them politely if they have additional questions. And finally, the legal protection. And again, this has been an issue, and I've been thinking about it the whole week. How can you protect your business because the commerce codes are not corresponding and international transactions are not covered in both countries? Well, first off, set the tone and give a warning shot early in the game. Don't be too polite with your counterpart, but just make sure that if they're not paying, if there is going to be a problem, you'll get off the table. I know Mexico is a good business, but we don't want it. We don't want you to be hurt by this business opportunity. And our approach many years has been to do the business and facilitate the business to the importer. But here, basically, we have shifted, and basically we need to protect your business. So make sure that the legal basically that you are very nice, but very strong and very firm on the commercial terms and what happens if something doesn't happen from the other side. So one of the things is, what happens with payments, and we have recommended most of the times that you ask for a payment in advance for the initial 5 transactions or 6 months. Over time, and again, being very nice and try to make business grow, we have seen 2 cases where after these 5 transactions and 6 months, the Mexican importer didn't pay. And I think we covered that on the last seminar. Just continue asking for payment in advance. One way that you can help this or alleviate this is consider a discount for, small discount, honoring the long-term relationship, but ask for payment in advance. What happens on the Mexican side? And actually, I made some calls last week asking, how would you see it? Well, basically, the Mexican importer will finance his business or her business with you. So you're either selling them goods or you're a bank for them and helping them with their cash flow. If they don't have the cash flow to respond to your business, then I think they shouldn't be doing business with you at all. So just be careful with that, because otherwise you are risking getting paid, or you are risking on, again, financing a company that is not yours. So just protect yourself. We saw other ways. There is, in Mexico, it's called pagare, which is a letter of credit that the Mexicans will sign, but it's very hard to collect. And it's a Mexican tool, a legal tool. Again, pagare, Pagare, but it's hard again to collect, and you have to go and pretty much sue the company. You need to sign the pagare or the document to a Mexican entity that could be a lawyer, so they can collect on your behalf. And then you have another problem, which is collecting the money collected by that other party. So it's a big issue. So again, we just stay out of trouble and continue asking for payment in advance. You ask and one other things are the payment terms. We don't pay using checks, and that's something that I saw about 15 years ago. A Mexican company wanted to pay by check, but obviously that check wouldn't be able to be collected in the US, because our banking systems are not corresponding. So we use wire transfer, and if they tell you that the wire transfer went and you don't have it in your bank, it didn't go. I mean, the SWIFT system, they are transferred from one day to the other. So if you hear that, oh, I went to the bank and something happened, just be very careful on that, so you can get your money. You will get a $25 discount per transaction in general from the banks. But other than that, you shouldn't have a problem, or it went to Switzerland, or a Nigerian prince has it and he's going to pay you in 2 weeks. So just be very careful with the transfer, with the wire transfer. Another thing that we see that it's coming back is the Exim Bank. It was popular in the 90s and in the 2000s. It was very hard to manage because of all the documentation that they asked. But we have seen that it's being promoted for specific states, and it seems that they are evolving and making things simpler. But you can use the Exim Bank to guarantee your transaction. The Exim Bank basically, again, covers or guarantees a payment and helps you with that. But that's something that you need to consider, and probably we need to explore more on that to continue talking about it. So anyway, I don't want to cover too much because we have another seminar talking about promotional support in Mexico. But this is a